I swear every fighter who's worked with Derek James recently comes to the ring looking stiff and one-dimensional, although tonight wasn't all his fault. I don't know what Ryan was doing in there, it looked like he didn't even want to win. If these are the kind of reactions that'll be thrown at an experienced professional and to avoid such issues happening again, especially with Ryan Garcia, Derek James has announced his retirement. Ryan Garcia is one fighter who's building his legacy around controversies and who seems to always have clauses to all of his fights. When he wins, there's a messy buildup of alcoholism, Mel Charlo, the ring's junior middleweight titleist Frank Martin, a highly ranked lightweight contender, and Anthony Joshua, the former unified heavyweight champion of the world. Garcia's decision to join James's Texas stable ostensibly wasn't just his own. Rick Glazer said rumors are rife that Frank Martin and longtime trainer Derek James have decided to part ways. That's not all. The message carries additional information about how, if at all true, Martin arrived at the decision.
Derek, can you talk to us just about the fight, what you think? What you think about the fight, the outcome, Ryan's performance?
However, the argument from Spence Jr.'s side is that James was entitled only to 10% of the purse listed for the fight in his agreement, not what he was paid in total. This legal battle was thought to have affected the preparation for Martin's big fight against Davis, but Spence Jr. the gentlemanly trainer barely finds himself in. The most recent one was a call-out by Bill Haney during their final press conference, where Bill Haney asked why he never said anything about Ryan Garcia coming in overweight during his last fight and failing the performance-enhancing medications test.
Because I don't believe in apologizing. If I really meant something, I'm not going to apologize. And no, man, don't worry about that. He said because 2 days before the fight, tempers rise, everybody's, sitting much. So yeah, this is what it is. When you hear people talk about you, and then when you have fun of...
The fan commented, "I graciously acknowledged Romero's victory without making excuses." The event attracted considerable attention given the notable setting and the unexpected outcome.
This is the thing about...
But their legal battle indicates a soured relationship. Both parties have said that they worked on a handshake agreement, according to which James would receive 10% of the fighter's purse. Following each fight, while Bill Haney fired those questions, there was a deafening silence from Derek James, who made it seem like he was confused or he just didn't hear any of Bill Haney's words. Well, Derek James had to suffer such embarrassment all because of Ryan Garcia's indiscipline. And then Ryan Garcia showed up against Romero.
Because I don't believe in apologizing. If I really meant something, I'm not going to apologize. And no, man, don't worry about that. He said because 2 days before the fight, tempers rise, everybody's, sitting much. So yeah, this is what it is. When you hear people talk about you, and then when you have fun of...
Derek James made this announcement shortly after the post-fight press conference, as a reporter interviewed him. He mentioned that this was his last fight with Ryan Garcia, and also that he would be taking a good time off the boxing ring. His reason is based on the fact that Ryan Garcia lacks the professional again, but now he's not. He's only got just over a month until his fight. The 2022 BWAA Trainer of the Year has a long list of notable fighters and champions at his disposal, most notably Errol Spence Jr., the former unified welterweight champion.
Was progressing in any way, and I just felt weird and off. And I would mention it to Derek, and we were just trying to figure it out, but we only had 5 weeks together. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know why I can't get no, I guess, progressive, sharpness coming into camp. Like, I don't know why it's not picking up, but we still...
Spence would deliver a check, but the argument that James made is that he should be getting 10% of the total revenue earned by Spence Jr., and not just the amount listed on his contract. As for Errol Spence, things got bad after Errol Spence Jr. relieved Derek James off his duties as his trainer following his embarrassing loss to Terence Crawford, and they both attacked each other with lawsuits. James reported in his lawsuit that Spence made
Romero.
Well, he's just shown he's been very disciplined and he really wants what he wants. And that's the only reason why.
He was off PEDs his last fight. Answer the question. You guys pled guilty to PEDs. You finally are up here. Hall of Fame trainer and Derek James. Answer the question. Is he going to be clean this fight?
Dismissed those concerns. Speaking to Boxing News, he said on the 13th of June, he said, "Nah, things are going smoothly. It's all about Frank Martin. So we didn't get into any of that. 100% about Frank. But questions remain. It's great just to have other great fighters in the gym," Spence recently said in an interview with Brian Custer on The Last Stand. "It makes you stay on point, especially in sparring when knowing that they're watching you. You try to work a little harder. And that's all for now. For the very best updates on journalism, to work with him and take his advice. At the end, the trainer is then blamed for whatever inconsistency or weakness the fighter exhibits." One of the comments on Ryan Garcia's instant tweet after his loss had overlooked the fighter's flaws and had blamed Derek James instead.
How I act.
Ask some real questions. Ask him, is he going to be clean this fight? Is Derek James going to make sure that he's clean?
Damn you, ESPN. Damn you, ESPN.
Derek seems like he's done talking. Ryan, you're hearing this all across the stage here. What do you make of...
Fighter turned coach has always had a star-studded group that is featured and still features Errol Spence Jr., Jermell Charlo, Anthony Joshua, Ryan Garcia, and Frank Martin James. Derek James, after devoting his time and energy to training fighters, then he'd better call it quits before the disrespect gets loudest. Ryan Garcia's performance against Romero was nothing to write home about. It was a shambolic display of sluggishness and lack of intelligence.
Last fight.
Bill wants to know why Derek James didn't do the weight cut last time.
Quiet as a church mouse. What?
I don't know what he's asking. Derek
Quiet.
was there the whole time.
Quiet.
We'll move forward. I see
One who was aware of Derek James's decision to stay away from boxing. A lot of people can't take it. A lot of people can't be in that type of room and work. You have to find out who you are before you walk in the room to be with a group of guys like that. James is seeking accounting for Spence's earnings in all of his pay-per-view bouts, including his lucrative triumphs over Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, and Ugas. Spence counters by seeking $250K. It was clear that his performance was nothing like what a coach of Derek James's caliber would have advised him to put up. Garcia simply went to do his thing, and his team have been slammed for such disappointment. In Ryan Garcia's case, Derek James has been under fire several times, a situation... in July last year. Some time ago, James filed a lawsuit against Spence Jr. seeking damages upward of $5 million related to pending payment from the former unified welterweight champion. On the same day, Spence filed a countersuit seeking declaratory relief. Instead, Garcia announced he is now reunited with Derek James, who happens to be Anthony Joshua ex-trainer. Garcia previously trained with James for his fights against Devin Haney and Oscar Duarte. Kingery broke the distance, but is disappointed by James's recent attempted overreach to try and abstain payment beyond their long-standing agreement and exceeding the scope of the services that James provided, Childers wrote in the lawsuit.
This fight is obviously a mega event because of Ryan.
Ryan, if you hit Jerome with those punches that Stanionis landed, what happens?
Well, I'm much more snappier than Stanionis, and I didn't say his name right. But I'm way more ferocious than that guy, so it could be a lot. You never know in the ring. Some people could take good shots, some people can't, so you just have to see when you get in the ring.
Hey Ryan, you're at the border.
Instead, just to do nothing. He lacked intent, awareness, brutality, or sharpness while he was in the ring. Nothing seemed to work for him, and if it was a frustrating show for boxing fans, it must have been a more disgusting show for Derek James, who had spent weeks training him for the fight.
versus Rolly.
Spence's lawsuit claims that it wasn't until February, 6 months after the Crawford loss, that James first requested to be paid 10% of the total fight revenue. The Spence lawsuit contends James was given his proper 10% of the bout agreement cut of $2. Sadly, on board as his new trainer. In his first 2 fights with Ryan Garcia, Derek James helped Ryan Garcia to a popular statement victory over Oscar Duarte and a disqualified win against Devin Haney. Hence, King Ree was looking... In James's lawsuit, James claims Spence told the trainer that someone named Al had told him that $350K was generous. It was not revealed if Al was Spence's manager and Premier Boxing Champions founder, Al Heyman. I think James was on his way to retirement, so Garcia was going to hook up with Reynoso, but then realized that, like everyone else, Reynoso didn't have time for him, so he dropped a bag for James to be in his corner come fight time, a fan explained. Another
These fighters, it's very funny. They always have an idea how they want to fight somebody until it's not working. Right? And you really don't want to find out it's not working during the fight, so you want to, hopefully they got to have an aha moment. Okay, man, you know, I'm tired of fighting.
Man added, y'all read too much into it. Reynoso is busy with Canelo and Munguia, who both have fights the same night. Ryan and Teo fight the same night as well. He doesn't have enough time to do 4 camps with 4 fighters who fight literally in the same 24 hours on opposite ends of the world. Of $2.5 million, along with a $100K bonus. Thus, the Spence lawsuit claims the standard course of performance between Spence and James occurred for a 29th time. Spence is grateful for James's long-time assistance.
Let's just get it, you know. And really, so I mean, like maybe two of them never did that. I mean, Joshua never did that.
Oh yeah?
No. And then Frank never really. He may have some ideas, but he never like, you know what I mean?
Like went into his own.
Right, yeah. Everybody.
Like I see when Ryan did the shoulder roll and
$25 million to fight Crawford and produced a February text message in the evidence where Spence appears to concede he owed James another $2.15 million beyond the $350K he had previously paid him. Before Ryan called, wrote, "So Derek James isn't going to be out of a job after all. Was thinking everyone might have left him. To be fair, this is a good move for Ryan, as I think he was doing decent under him. I do wonder how recent this was, because he was supposedly with madness and misbehavior and a chaotic post-fight period of failed tests. And when he doesn't win, he puts up a disappointing performance that has chased his trainer out of the camp. Fans who were aware of Garcia's interest in working with Eddie Reynoso before meeting up with Derek James have expressed their surprise initially.
Come on, man, I gotta go there. I got an undisputed champ. Hey, keep your ass out there.
What's up? What's going on?
It's all good.
I said, what's going on?
Before the news on social media over the weekend, writing on X, formerly Twitter, major announcement, working with Derek James at this camp, and it's been going great. Let's go. May 2nd, Fatal Fury. Ryan Garcia experienced a shocking defeat against Romero in his comeback fight at Times Square, losing by unanimous decision after being heavily favored. Garcia suffered a knockdown in the 2nd round, leading to one of the most significant upsets in recent boxing history. $8 or less from James, along with attorney fees. However, Derek James had once hinted boxing fans on his retirement, only that it wasn't expected to happen so soon. The Texas-based...
Stupid? What's the issue with me?
I said what's going on.
I said what's up.
I said what's going on.
I said what's up.
All right.
Yeah, I said the one talking. Ain't me. Man, listen, you about to get choked out or something. But really, it was like his boy on the outside was talking. Yeah.
A scene not many can often stomach, said James. I think they all feed off of each other. I think it's more about inspiration. That's the key element. To be in a room with a lot of guys who are successful, to have enough humility, said James.
It's a real
next year. But if another top star comes knocking on the door of James and offers him the coaching keys to their career, don't expect the 51-year-old to oblige. No. I'm done. I'm retiring. No more. I'm out of boxing after my guys retire, James said in an interview. Commentary from fans and analysts ranged from disbelief to criticism, highlighting Garcia's drastic performance drop in his first match back. Despite the upset, Garcia
didn't realize, okay, he's very athletic, and so you build his skill set around his athleticism.
Derek brings out the best in me. Now he can show me how to do something and tell me when and why to do it.
Exploit every angle. If you hear, you hear.
Everybody gets along really well. Before their split, Spence said the star fighters that he trains alongside serve as a source of inspiration for him. In a post on his social media account, it appeared as though the wildly popular star sought the blessing and approval of Spence before taking the plunge. "Thank you to Derek James and Errol Spence Jr. for allowing me to join the team," wrote on a social media post after bringing Derek James.
Yeah, I think I got one. It was just the right time because I had said to myself that I want to start giving back. I grew up in Dallas and grew up in the Boys and Girls Club. Just about every one of my great childhood experiences was there. And I grew up, I started boxing here in this gym. People around the Boys and Girls Club, all the directors and everything, boxing coach that I admired, everything I am today is because of the Boys and Girls Club. It wasn't so much about anything else, just me.
To reunite with Canelo Álvarez's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, for the fight, who he previously trained under between 2018 and 2021. However, with Álvarez having an undisputed title fight coming up on May 3rd, Reynoso couldn't accommodate him. Derek James' retirement was first hinted after it was rumored that Frank Martin had also fired him from his corner, like Errol Spence Jr. In a tweet, New York State Boxing Hall of Fame inductee and veteran matchmaker interview with BoxingScene.com. And with his sudden retirement, many fans have been asking what exactly would happen to the careers of his other stars like Ryan Garcia. The stars can be out at any given time at the world-class boxing gym in Dallas.
I didn't try to figure it out. We never had conversations like the first 2 years. It was all about business and all about working, all about developing. And I started getting better and just showing different skill sets that I didn't have before. It was obvious that he had.
Rick Glazer wrote, "Rumors abound that trainer Derek James has been fired by Frank Martin." The message further suggested that Errol Spence Jr. may have played a key role in influencing Frank Martin's decision. And Frank is prompted by Errol Spence, who also previously fired Derek James. It read, "Derek James began training Frank Martin in 2020, after the boxer's first cousin, NFL linebacker Jalen Smith, approached James and Errol Spence in 2020.
The athleticism, he just needs the skill set. And once he got that, it was over. I kept working out with him because I seen the results. He realized that I was real. After that part, we just kept talking and then just getting closer and closer, like a big brother, little brother. You have to constantly keep growing as a trainer and as a fighter.
A professional fighter from 1992 to 2008 who compiled a record of 21 wins, 7 losses, and 1 draw, has had an even more brilliant career as a trainer. James linked up with Joshua and Garcia earlier last Spence in 2020. Since that year, Martin and James have been working together, but it looks like the trainer will have a second high-profile split in a matter of months. Errol Spence Jr. split from James earlier after his 9th-round knob defeat to Terence Crawford.
Yeah, and working with him, you get Jamel.
When working with Derek James and working with Errol Spence, you know, it's like, wow, you get to see another guy with the same ambition, the same drive and determination.
You know, we just clicked because he's a great student. They're very similar in Errol and Jamel because they want to be what you...
A lot of fight, there was a question of whether the Errol Spence Jr. lawsuit may have affected Derek James and Frank Martin's preparation for the fight. This is something Spence Jr. himself addressed. Spence Jr. and James worked together for 11 years before their split earlier this year.
Wanted to promote him.
I knew when I came down I was going to have to show them exactly, you know, what I was about too, as far as me being a hard worker and being disciplined.
He was cool, you know, down to earth, you know, wasn't boastful. He was just a guy that was trying to work hard. I signed him.
When we start warriors, you have to have a personal relationship with him. That's why I don't train 20 fighters. I mean, I train 3 guys.
I moved to Texas because I felt like it was just a lot more opportunity.
I was talking to Errol, and I said, what do you think about Frank? Errol's like, he likes him.
News, moments, events, and actions in the world of boxing. Stay connected with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications to get notified when we drop quality contents like this. Until next time, peace out.